Hello, everybody, and welcome to this virtual visit webinar of the Food Factory for Us Sustainable Supply Chain Competition. So this is the third out of 6 webinars of the competition. We already met at the first webinar where we introduced the competition. Then we saw each other 2 weeks ago for the student presentation webinar, and now we will see each other again for this virtual visit. Let me introduce the people you see on the screen. You see Alfred Marr, he is a member of the advisory board. And you see our team from BOKU, from the University of Natural Resources in Austria. And then you see Catherine and me from ISEKI-Food Association. You can change the slide, Catherine, please. So now you're almost familiar with GoToWebinar. This time you are attendees. That means you see your control panel, and here you can raise your hand when you want to ask a question, or if there's anything you're unsure about, just raise your hand and we will communicate with you. We cannot see you as an attendee, but we can definitely hear you, and we will open your microphone if you have a question. Yes, you can. What I should also say, we will definitely record all webinars. You can watch them on our YouTube channel. You can find the link on the Food Factory for Us website. And you can also find the presentation from today on the website. Yeah, you can change the slide, please, Catherine. So today's agenda, we have 2 virtual visits. Going to visit BOKU, the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna, in Austria. We're going to visit the Institute of Food Technology. It's a pilot plant for less used cereals. Then we are going to visit a beer fermentation institute. It's called IFBM. It's the French Institute of Brewing and Malting in France. We don't have any representatives from IFBM, unfortunately. That's why I will just briefly introduce the institute. It was founded in 1962 by the will of national professional organizations, and it's an institute that has about 35 employees. They do research and development of new barley and wheat varieties. They do inter-laboratory tests, technical studies and consulting, and they also develop recipes on new beverages, and they also offer professional. After we will watch the virtual visits on video, we will have short question and answer sessions where we're very happy if you can ask questions. We will have a discussion, and then we will have a structured reflection session where we will try to link the experiences that we saw in the virtual visit webinars to the theory, and to also focus on reflection. And we will do that individually and in small groups. That's why we also asked you to sit together in groups so you can talk to each other. So that's the agenda for today. And now I will hand over to Alfred, who will moderate this session on the virtual visits.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to moderate this session today, this webinar. First of all, I'd like to introduce the team of BOKU. You heard already, it's in Vienna, the University for Natural Resources and Life Sciences. And we are members of the Institute of Food Technology. And today we like to show you a video, and afterwards, of course, we like to answer your questions and to discuss the topic with you. It's a very, very actual topic we show you and we will discuss afterwards. But first of all, let me introduce the team of BOKU you see on your screen. On the right side, you see Regine Schönlechner. She is associate professor on the institute, and she is the leader of the working group of cereals within the Institute of Food Technology. In the middle, you see Denise Bender. She is one of our senior scientists, and she is in fact, the project manager, I would call her, of omic heating, the topic you will see today. So she is the expert. She developed and made most of the research work. She's really an expert, and you can ask her all the questions maybe you are interested in omic heating. On the left side, we find Lisa Kahl. Lisa Maria Kahl is also member of the advisory board, so as Regine and I am. And Lisa is in a PhD phase of her studies, and she is advanced researcher for in the composition and some of the components of cereals as ATIs and FODMAPs and so on. But all three together, they are experts in not only in cereals, pseudo cereals, and omic heating, but also in gluten-free bread. So gluten-free is one of the main topics, and gluten-free bread heating by omic heating impact. This is our topic. Okay, I think we should start now the video omic heating. Hopefully you all have the link to the video, and we have now a time of 10 minutes to watch the video. I will not interrupt the video looking at with my moderation. But first of all, we started. Are there any questions starting the video, or any questions for operating the next 10 minutes within the participating teams? Are there any questions?
I don't think there are any questions. I don't see any, so I
Okay, no,
suggest
nobody
everyone
raised.
starts the video and we resume.
So then we start the video, please, and we will be connected again in 10 minutes. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Good luck and enjoy the video.
Jetzt hast du die Kamera verändert. Ich habe die Kamera nicht verändert, oder? Doch. Also sie war jetzt zu dritt drauf, na passt. Wo ist sie?
Okay, I think the 10 minutes are over. I think we can move to the questions.
Yes, that is absolutely true. It seemed almost everyone saw the video. I only had one person who seemed to have a problem. So for that person, I say, please just be patient and hopefully you'll be able to see the second video. And for the rest, Alfred, we put you, I think maybe Alfred
You're muted,
is
Alfred, I
muted.
think.
Yeah, let me unmute him. Okay. Yes, Alfred, you are muted by your own power.
Great.
There you are. Yes, now we can hear you. Okay, so
Thank
I
you very much.
leave it to the Boku.
Yes. Are there any questions? But first of all, let me thank you, the Boku team, Regine, Denise, and Lisa. And I have to add that Lisa was our team member of Boku responsible also for the video technique behind. So everything you saw was made by Lisa's camera expertise, also not only serial expertise. Okay, please forward your questions about omic heating of gluten-free bread to the Boku team.
You can raise your hand or you can type in your questions. We can open your microphone.
Don't be shy.
There is a good chance to go into detail with your questions. Maybe you are interested not only, as we heard, the gluten-free recipe was based on buckwheat and gluten-free wheat starch. Maybe you are interested in other gluten-free cereal or pseudo-cereal recipes, or you are interested in the omic heating process.
We have one question from
please.
Eduardo. I will open your microphone, Eduardo.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very nice. Well, first of all, I would like to say that it was a very interesting technique. Actually, I had never heard of it. And I find it really interesting, my colleagues here as well. And we were wondering if this method has some limitations because, for example, what if I am trying to use this method for example, in a baguette? Are we limited to toast bread or to this kind of format? I would like to know about that.
Thank you for your question. Yes, if I can reply to the question, yes, it is limited. It depends. First of all, it is suited for more liquid batters, so gluten-free batter would be better than a baguette. if we have a wheat bread, the only thing that we needed to do is put in the recipe much more water so that the consistency will be more liquid. Then it would be possible to do it, although you could also do it with a baguette. The only thing that you need to make sure is that that you press the dough next to the electrodes so that there is always contact and the electrical current can pass through the dough. Also, another limitation might be the conductivity of the dough itself. So if we are talking about like cakes or this kind of products that don't have a lot of salt, then we would have to determine in other ways how to put maybe ions inside that can transport the electrons inside of the dough. And also, if your recipe has a lot of fat content, fat is not conductive, so we would have to also see how we can manage this obstacle.
Denise, please could you add maybe an aspect of crust formation, which is not able in the first step of omic baking, because crust would be a very important quality factor of a baguette.
Exactly. Well, what we could do in the end is we have actually the heat generation inside will be equal or homogeneous in the whole bread. The only thing that will be much cold or a little bit colder in the dough would be the surface. So we would have at the end a slightly doughier surface. The only thing that we can do to build the crust afterwards is take advantage that there's a doughy surface and maybe with infrared rapid method for heating, build a crust, and therefore have this desired Maillard reaction and flavor development if it's for the product, because not all products need the crust. It's a question, what kind of product do we want? Do we want something like a tramezzini where the crust is not desired, or do we want a completely baked bread where the crust is desired?
Yeah, it was very impressive. The method takes, I mean, it's really quick. It's 20 seconds. It's very fast, and that's, I'm pretty sure, very convenient. But I couldn't help to wonder that sometimes in these kind of products, when you take them to a bigger scale, the manufacturers, they use enzymes, and these enzymes rely on the time of baking. So, for example, these freshness enzymes like amylases, sometimes their range of action is around 70 to 80 or sometimes 90 degrees. So they rely on that curve of temperature, raising temperature, so that they can act and have this desired effect. So yeah, I was just thinking about that. It's just one input I would like to give, but it's very impressive that it takes so fast.
I give a short answer to this maybe. Bakers use enzymes sometimes to optimize structure, optimize texture, or different aims. If you optimize all this by omic heating alone, maybe you don't need the enzymes. That's the idea also behind it. Replace sometimes ingredients by process method, and omic heating probably offers such a method that you can do without enzymes, maybe.
Interesting aspects.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it might need further research, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yes, this would be a good topic for further research. Let's, Regine, maybe a master thesis, whatever.
Yes,
we are
doing that. We are continuing the research because this was the first preliminary test that we did on bread, but we are transferring the whole method also on different recipes and different parameters, and there's still a lot to study to get done for the application in the industry. And we are doing that right now. We are having first PhD students working on this.
Yeah, pretty nice results. Thank you for your answers.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very
You're
much for your question and interesting input. Thank you.
Mhm.
Further questions, further
Yeah.
inputs, further discussion.
We have several questions.
Oh, great.
I will open. The next one in line is Divyot. You have a question. I will open your microphone so you can ask yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Great.
Am I
Hello.
am I audible?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Like in the industry, most of the industries need some energy efficient processes. Like baking takes half an hour and omic heating takes like 20 seconds. But is it like more energy efficient in terms of consumption of energy compared to the normal conventional baking?
Yes. We roughly calculated this because it's not very easy to, we didn't have the equipment available at the time. But what we saw is that during the baking process itself, we have over 40% energy savings using omic heating. And this is not considering that in the conventional baking oven, we have to heat it up first before we put the breads inside. So we estimate that it will be over 50% energy saving using the omic heating.
Okay,
May
thanks.
I give an additional note? In omic heating, the energy intake is only by the ingredients of the dough or the later bread. But if you have a traditional baking, you have to warm up the oven, you have to warm up the air. So you have a lot of losses. They are not existent in omic heating.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Further questions, please.
Yes. Then the next one is from Eleni. So I will just open your microphone. Eleni, can you ask your question?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Welcome to your
Hi, it
question.
was very impressive, really. I would like to ask if this baking technique works for every type of gluten-free flour, but you pretty much answered that you're searching it further. So, I mean,
Yes.
like if the cereal is different or it is like lentils or something else, if it does affect the process.
Well, every ingredient affects the process, of course, but principally, I would estimate that every gluten-free flour works, but the quality of the final bread, of course, you need to optimize. Important is that you have conductivity and that you have enough fluidity by the water content, but principally you could use any cereal, gluten-free cereal. I even assume that you could use legume flours. But as you mentioned, we will go into more detail in the next research.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion input?
Yeah, we have some raised hands from William.
Great.
We'll open your microphone.
Hi,
William? Yeah.
hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you, William.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. My concern is about the health-related issues regarding the processes. The omic heating is quite an unconventional method, and then the use of infrared to create the crust is also quite unconventional. I was thinking, in this current world where people are concerned about their health and how their food is being processed, how are you relating your process to the health concerns of consumers?
Well, we actually took a look at about into the nutrients when we baked our bread, and since the process is so quick, we haven't studied it yet, but you would suppose you would be losing less sensitive ingredients or like components like vitamins and bioactive components. So you're supposed to lose much less because the process is quicker. But what we saw and what we did measure was that our breads had a little bit more resistant starch. Resistant starch is just a dietary fiber, is a starch that is not digested by our human enzymes. So we are increasing the dietary fiber content of our bread. And this is good for gluten-free bread because gluten-free bread usually is composed of a lot of starch, less protein, less dietary fiber. So if we can, with our recipe, already increase the dietary fiber for a little bit, we increased it for around 5%, this would be beneficial for the consumers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Further, is anybody raising his hand?
Yeah, I think there's one last hand. I think it's from Jorge. I will just open your. I don't know if you raised it earlier. I'll just. Jorge, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's not me. It's Maria Belén. It's part of my team, but we're using my computer, so she will do the question.
Okay.
Thank you for the video first. I have a question regarding the protein quality of the heated bread. Regarding the follow-up of a milder reaction that it is evident lower regarding the conventional baking process, do you know, or maybe do you expect better protein quality with ohmic heating?
Do we expect it?
No. I mean, what I expect is that the protein is denatured like in the other baking process because the temperature is high enough. If digestibility is different or if the quality itself is different, remains to be studied in detail. We didn't really look into this detail yet. I think there might be a little bit different properties, but I would not expect better or worse digestibility, to be honest. But this is only a hypothesis.
Okay, and regarding the contaminants of Maillard reaction, also there will be expected less HMF, for example, or for
yeah, we don't have any Maillard reaction actually in this process, or so minor that we say it's like zero. So we don't have these compounds in the bread here.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's just one hand left.
Okay.
I think it's from Mara. I will open your microphone.
Mara's question.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I have a small question about the. I don't know much about this ohmic heating, so I would like to know if it's considered as a sterilizing method, and what about the shelf life of the product, and because the water activity, I guess it's higher.
We didn't study the shelf life yet. What we have seen is the moisture or the water activity after the bread. It's a little bit higher, so it's a little bit moisture and the water activity is higher. But the bread is so foamy and it has no crust that it dries out quickly. That's what we have seen just visually. So when the bread is cool, packaging is an issue of this bread, or maybe the crust formation later on. But yes, but otherwise, in detail, we didn't study shelf life yet. It's like toast bread. Toast bread, you need to package as well soon after baking because it would dry out quickly like any white wheat bread.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Okay. Any question?
We do have one more.
One more. Yeah, great.
Yes,
It's
from
a very interesting topic. Congratulations to the Boku team. You caused many questions.
It's very good. So I'll open Maria's microphone. Please go ahead.
Welcome, Maria.
Hello.
Hello.
Please, your question, Maria.
Hello, and it's a really nice presentation. I want to ask if you have so many differences between the baking and also the ohmic heating. Why don't you apply it in a like to mimic a boiling process or making a cake rather than having I mean making a soft cake rather than bake a bread?
Sorry, again.
She wants to know if you do, why don't you produce cakes instead of bread?
Yes.
Well, like I mentioned before, salt content is a problem. We need a dough that or a batter that is conductive. Cakes don't have that much salt, so we have to bring the some kind of ions inside of the dough. We could use probably baking powder or something like this. And also the fat content is very high, so it reduces the conductivity of the butter. So this remains a challenge to be studied.
But it's not impossible, just to add this, it's not impossible, and this will be a future topic also to apply it in cake doughs and batters, actually. But it's just
because when I see
because
when I see the process.
Yeah, go on.
We have to add a new kind of food additive to increase conductivity within a dough. So it's something very new. We have to discuss it also on a food legal level, but a very interesting topic for the future also. Is baking powder, for example, not only for leavening a cake, but also for increasing the conductivity. So baking powder could be a very good additive for it. Maybe.
Yeah, because when I see the bread, it's quite white, so it might be a challenge as well to in terms of the appearance of the bread to the customer.
Yeah, but it depends on the flour that you use and also on the aromas that you use, and you could use wholemeal flour or any darker flour. And there's a lot of customers, depends really, as Denise said before, on the end product that you need. If you think of tramezzini, no crust is desired. Or if you think maybe of special dietetic breads for elderly people, sometimes they don't want to eat crust. So this is a completely new market, you know.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Line, please, could you look for rising hands?
Yeah, I think we got through all of them.
So I have to thank very much, not only the presenting team, great job what you did on Boku, congratulations, but I was very impressed of the really interesting questions, the interested discussion, and hopefully we have a very good new baking process which is interesting on an international scales. And so maybe we had a kick-off meeting today for the introduction of ohmic heating in many other institutes European-wide, maybe all globally, of course. Thank you very much.
Okay, so then we move on to the next visit.
To the next visit, Line or Katrin, would you like to give a short introduction to IFPM? I think the B should be a brewery B.
Yes. I can just briefly tell you, so we have the contact to IFPM. It's the French Institute of Brewing and Malting in France. We have the contact through Actia, through Christophe Cotillon. He's from Actia in France. And he has, and they produced this video that you will be watching shortly about brewing. And just to give you a short presentation about the Institute, so it was founded in 1962 It's a rather small institution. They do research and development on barley and wheat varieties. They do tests. They do technical studies, recipe development, and professional training. So I think we should watch the video, and we will do exactly the same procedure that we did just now with the Booko video. You will see the link to the video in the chat box, or if that doesn't work, you have received earlier in an email from Catherine the link also, and you can watch it like that. And this video is a little bit shorter. It takes about 3 minutes, so we will resume again in 5 minutes at 11:49.
Okay, dear attendees, may I ask you, have you finished watching the video of IFBM? Or do you need some further
Well, I
time?
think it's fine, Alfred. I had
Oh,
no comments about any problems, so I think that everything went well with watching the video.
okay, so let me open the discussion. It was really a very fast-moving working process we saw in all the departments of IFBM. And maybe it is helpful. We saw maybe 3 different processes. We saw the malting, we saw the brewing or a part of brewing in the last sequences of the video, the filling into barrels, beer filling into barrels, and in between we saw baking. So 3 different technology, and maybe we can focus in our discussion or in your questions on these 3 different processes. This will be helpful to answer questions. I would like to try if I could answer questions instead of a member of IFBM. And as Line and Catherine pointed out, if I cannot answer question, please forward your question per email to Christophe Cotillon at the address you see in the PowerPoint.
What I
Okay,
can also
now,
add, maybe we also uploaded a PowerPoint presentation about IFPM. I just put the link to where you can find it on the competition website. You can find the presentation here also, if you're more interested in the institution.
okay, let's try. Maybe there are some questions I can answer. Please
Don't be
raise your
shy.
hands.
Or if you have an own experience about brewing, you're welcome to share it also.
Maybe some of you ever tried a beer, maybe, I don't know. Now, maybe I go to the first
We have a question.
sequence. You have one
We do
question?
have a question. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Do you
Tommaso,
see it?
I will open your microphone. You raised your hand. Tommaso, can you hear us? No, he's not responding.
Not responding. No, I cannot hear anything.
No.
So maybe in between, I go to the first sequence of the 3 processes, malting. Maybe we had a very fine structured presentation because we have 3 processes within malting. We have the steeping, where we increase the humidity of the barley, for example. The second step is the germination, where the enzymes are developed within the embryo of the barley kernels. And we have an enzyme preparation, a so-called green mold at the end of the process. And then comes the third process, the kilning, which is a drying and a light roasting process. Is this maybe helpful for further questions? If not, we have a look at the second process. This was brewing. The brewing process starts with a milling, a grinding of the malt kernels. And then we have an extraction process where it is very important that we have the activity of enzymes, amylases primarily, at certain temperature steps. And then we had seen the filtration. And after the filtration, we have a cooking process where we add hop, for example, or other ingredients to give beer a certain typical flour. And then we have a filtration, and then we have the fermentation process, at least after cooling down to a fermentation temperature and adding yeast. Could this be helpful to further questions? Maybe all the action was a little too fast to go into detail if you are not familiar with certain processes. Yes, and maybe let me point out the third process we saw in the laboratories. This was baking. Why baking? Because malt is a very, very important ingredient in baking technology, enhancing the amylase activity indoors. So,
Eduardo raised his hand, so I will
okay.
just open your microphone. You're self-muted, Eduardo. You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, there. Okay.
Okay, now we can hear you. Welcome.
Hello. I just wanted to ask if this institute also works with hops.
I'm sorry, I'm not a member of this French Brewing Institute. Of course, they have, usually, I guess, they work with hops, but I cannot answer. This is a very specific question to member of the institute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, oh, no. I will try Tommaso again, maybe. He has raised his hand again.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes,
yes.
we can hear
yes.
you.
Oh,
Hello,
perfect.
Tommaso.
So I'm not an expert about malting. So I was wondering what's the difference between macro malting and normal malting? If there is any because I was reading this term and I was wondering if it's a different kind of malting. It's done only in the laboratory. It's also done at an industrial level.
Yes, with this specific term, usually we mean that we have a lower scale of weight input of barley, for example. Here we had an example of 2 kilograms of barley, but of course, in malting industry, this is done with a huge amount of, for example, 200 up to 500 tons per batch is a malting process done. So this is only a specific term for a pilot plant malting process.
Okay, thank you.
But in principle, there's no difference. All the enzymatic activation of the barley embryos and the barley kernels and later endosperm of the barley kernels is of course comparable on a micro scale and in a macro scale.
Okay, it's very clear. It's just a matter of quantities then.
Yes, it's dependent on the quantity, yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. If there are not further questions, I think we close this part of the discussion and the webinar. And I think, Catherine, now up to you to have a final discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alfred. That was really excellent. You are welcome to stay if you are interested in this reflection session.
Of course, I'm interested. Yes.
Great, great. We're happy to have you. Okay. So I'm going to move on in our virtual visit and ask all of you to take part in this structured reflection session. Reflection is a quiet time. It's a process of exploring ourselves, and we will do some deep thinking now about what we just experienced. And the aim is for this thinking to bring us a deeper learning and more insight into the experience we just had. This should increase our ability to link our own lives to a visit that we took in this virtual visit webinar, and then to put that together into some further action. So we'll take now about 15 to 20 minutes to do this structured reflection session. I ask each of you to please be sure that you have a pen or a pencil and a blank sheet of paper next to you. And I know if you're like me, you have the laptop and the tablet and the smartphone, but you have no pen and paper. So please take a moment now and locate a pen and paper and put it next to your screen. And then I ask if anyone here has any experience doing structured reflection. Can you raise your hand if you have ever done something like this before in your educational career? I don't see any hands. Line, I know that you have done it.
Yes, I've done it.
Yeah, so this is a technique that comes from the Next Food project. Next Food project is one of the sponsors of this competition. And this is a technique that Line and I have found extremely useful to help our learning and imagination process. Okay, so now I'm sure you all have a pen and blank paper next to you, and so we move on. Reflection is only one of the 5 core competences that we talked about on day 1 for participatory learning or action learning. We hope that you students, teams notice that we are really trying not to give you lectures. We're asking you to participate. We want to move away from the teacher giving knowledge to the student. And instead, we want to have this transformative model where these 5 competences that you see here, observation, reflection, dialogue, participation, and visioning, are how we share knowledge among teachers and advisors and students. This is our goal in this competition, to use this method of learning for all of the teams. And in fact, you have already all, or almost all, done a very good job with dialogue, because we had only one member from most of the teams at our first webinar, and we asked all of you to dialogue and to tell what happened to your other team members and to have them do the self-assessment. And almost everyone did, so thank you for that. And today, we will focus on the reflection competence. Of course, these 5 competences are applicable to any discipline. Here, we are interested in food science and sustainable cereals, but you might find, as you become familiar with these methods, that they are useful in other disciplines and even in your personal life as well. So, what do we do to reflect? Well, reflection is more than just looking in the mirror. In fact, reflection requires attention and focus. And some of us, many of us, may find this to be quite strange. We live in a world where things happen fast, like in the IFBM video. Everything is on super speed. And reflection is about slowing down. I'm going to ask you to sit in silence for a few minutes and to look at your own thoughts. And you might find this strange. You might feel uncomfortable with silence, and that's okay. We're here to learn. We're here to practice. There is no judgment on how you reflect or what your reflections bring to the surface. We only ask that you participate and that you do it with dedication and with commitment, that you are fully here for the next 15 minutes. There are several studies that show that we are better able to reflect, we are better able to access our creativity and our thoughts about a topic if we are relaxed. So, you can see me, but no one can see you. So please take a minute and slow down. Listen to your own breathing and feel any tension that you might have in your body. Feel it melt away. And now we will go to our first reflection question. Think back on the 2 virtual visits that we just completed. What did you observe that was most interesting about each location? And take 2 minutes on my timer and ask each of you to sit in silence and revisit the visits and pull out the 3 most interesting points for each location and write them on your blank paper. Okay. So now that you have each reflected individually about the visits we just had and what you found most interesting in each spot, now I ask you to talk to the person who is next to you, to discuss with your teammates and to choose out of these 6 points that are interesting, to choose only 3 of them that you both agree on, and to put them in the order. What was the most interesting thing you saw? What was second most? And what was third most interesting? And I'm going to put 3 minutes of timing for this. And if you are alone at your computer, I ask you to please do this on your own and take your 6 points and discuss with yourself what was the most interesting among them. So now we take 3 minutes of discussion time, and no one can hear you. So you go ahead and discuss with your teammates, and then we'll come back and we'll go around to each team and ask you what your most interesting point is. So please be sure that you come up with your number 1 most interesting point, your number 2, and your number 3. Okay, let's go 3 minutes in discussion. I remind you, if you have any questions during this discussion, feel free to type them in. I see one already, and I will do my best to answer. Okay, so now I hope that each of the groups has come up with what was most interesting about the visits that we just did. And I'm going to open some microphones now. And we're going to put down what we found most interesting about the different locations that we just visited on our PowerPoint slide. So let's see, let me make this bigger so I can write on it. There we go. All right. So I'm going to ask the different teams, just in order of the names I have here, if they could tell us what they found most interesting about each of the locations. And the first person I see, Bhumika. Bhumika, can I ask you to unmute your microphone and to tell us what you found was most interesting about our visits today? Oh. Nope, I lost Bhumika. Let me see. Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Can you tell us what your group found most interesting about these visits?
New approach and innovation.
Hi.
We don't hear you, Victoria.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Should I repeat?
Yes.
Our words is facilities, new approach, and innovation.
Okay, so these were the three most interesting points. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
William, is your group there? What did you find most interesting?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, William.
Okay, we found the ohmic heating, the application of ohmic heating in bread baking as very interesting. And also how infrared can be used to create crusts and on bread. And then the process of getting seeds to malt, we didn't know it was quite an integrative process like that. So we found the whole process quite interesting also.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you, William. Seti, can I unmute you? Oops, there you go. Can you tell us what your group found interesting?
Yeah, for my group, mostly it was in the first video, it was like the unconventional way of bread baking. Like, as one person already told that, actually.
Yeah, new approach I put here, right? Like
Yeah.
this.
And along with that, the rapid way of cooking, which is there in ohmic heating, rapidity in cooking. And then the second video, what we liked about was mostly the variety of processes which can be there in the malt industry, and with quite efficient and I mean improved machinery, I would say.
Okay. So like this, facilities and machinery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Seti. Eduardo, how did your group come up with in terms of interesting points? Can you unmute yourself, Eduardo? Eduardo, are you there?
Yeah, I think he's self-muted, or
Yeah,
I'll
I
try
think
and unmute him, but sometimes it happens at the same time.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't know if we both have to unmute. Shouldn't be. Okay, let's try Eleni.
Hello, good morning.
Here's Eduardo. We got Eduardo. Hi, Eduardo.
On behalf of the team, here are the 3 points that we found very interesting in the webinar. First is the application of theory of the electricity being able to use as your medium for baking the bread, because it's our first time to see the application of this theory on actual products. Second is the reduction time that the omic baking could do, which was really fast, from 30 minutes to 20 seconds. And the third one was the equipment and the pilot plant scale and the possibility of innovating using the setups in the beer industry. It is very interesting that you have this facility to mimic an industrial scale in order to have innovation on beer production on a laboratory scale or pilot plant scale. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Did I get it? Did I write it properly for you?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
You happy? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Eleni, can you tell us about your group?
Do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Hi.
Okay, it's pretty much the same with the others. We would like to say that the time of the baking process, like 20 seconds for a baked bread, it's really impressive. And from the second place, we would like to say that the equipment was really impressive. You really want to work there. It's like state of the art. That's what we have to say.
Okay, great. Am I putting it good, in a good way? Do I capture what you say like this?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And this, I put seconds, right? We're really impressed by something happening, by cooking happening in a period of seconds. Okay. Okay, great. Jorge, does your group have something to add?
Yes, can you listen to me?
Yes, hi Jorge.
Perfect. Hi. Well, for us, for the first video of Boku, we first found most interesting the time of the baking. Even though there are some concerns for the industry and like having the times for enzymes and everything, it could be also really interesting to use that advantage of the time to have consumers watch how their bread is done in like a couple of seconds. And now that the market is being done like more based on experience and emotions, this is like a really nice business opportunity, I think, for food service and restaurants. So we like about that the results are not that different. They're like even smoother breads, and you can do a lot of things there. And the equipment is simple. At the end, she managed to go all around the baking process by herself and in a couple of seconds. So this has a lot of opportunities for restaurants, in our opinion. And on the other hand, for the other institute in France, we really like the holistic approach that they're doing. They're like working with barley in different disciplines, and they're also using the barley in all these techniques. They're brewing with it the beer, and last also how they're working the microbiology. That they're working on yeast, and I think they are trying to make like the perfect fit on the yeast strains and the barley that they're working on.
Okay, I had a little trouble hearing you, but I think I captured what you said. Are you happy with what I wrote down?
Yes, yes.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Jorge. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to ask the others if there's anything they'd like to add here, and if so, to raise your hand. Otherwise, I will move on to the next part of our reflection session. So the other groups, do you have something else that you'd like to add that you found very interesting about the two visits that is not copied already here on the slide? No. Okay. Good. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of points here. Thank you to the groups. Let's go now to our second reflection question. And I think maybe this one will be really beneficial for the groups. We'll again take 2 minutes in silence, and we're going to look at the points that we just put on the slide, and we're going to think about how we might apply these interesting points to our own project, to our group project, in a way that could improve or inspire our project. So I'm going to take 2 minutes in silence, and I ask you to reflect on these points that we just put up and to write down how one or two of them might be able to inspire your project. 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. And now, again, we do the small group sharing of our reflections. And here again, I ask you to talk to your team members. I want to point out here that you can find something inspiring for your project, even if it's not a technical aspect. You might find something that's not here on this list that is more of a sociological or method of presentation that you might find inspiring for your project. Or you might find something that is technical. So let's take 3 minutes now to talk with our team members and to come up with the single most inspiring point that is applicable to our project and how. How can we apply this? So 3 minutes to talk to your group members. Okay. So I was planning now to ask some of the teams to share how their project might be inspired by the visits we just took. But time is short, and I reflected during this session on your activity, and I thought perhaps you might want to keep this to yourself of how your group will be inspired by these visits. So I'm going to leave this sharing session alone and instead just move to the end of our webinar for today and remind you that reflection is something that you can practice and you can get better at it. It's a competence, and we can work on our ability to reflect. And if you do a regular reflection, I think you will find that you get a bigger value from your experiences. We often don't take the time to look at what we just did. We go right on to doing something else. And if you're really motivated, I encourage you to keep a little notebook, like I do. Keep a little notebook where you write down your reflections. And you go back and look at that, and I think you'll find a lot of creative ideas come out of reflection. I see someone's hand is up. Is it Victoria? Victoria, do you want to say something? You can unmute your microphone, Victoria, if you want to. I unmuted you. Yeah, go ahead.
So our team is very inspired by these topics, and they make us innovation oriented for task solving and do unconventional approach for investigation process.
Do you think you can apply that to your team project?
Yes, of course.
Fabulous. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Lena, I think we had a final announcement, right? We had some really good news since our last meeting, and that is that the International Cereal Association is upping their prize. They are going to give 3 free registrations to the Whole Grain Summit, which will be held in Rome from 16 to 18 November. And they also guarantee an oral presentation for the winning project. So the winning team has guaranteed a presentation plus 3 members of the team can attend. And you know, there's also some cash prizes, which if your university does not sponsor your travel and accommodation, there is cash prize that can cover the travel and accommodation. So really a fabulous networking and visibility opportunity for the winning team. And with that, I remind you that there will be a short survey at the end of the webinar. Please tell us what we did well and what we can improve on, so we can always make these competitions more and more interesting for you. And also remind you that this entire webinar was recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel. Anybody want to say any final word? Okay, well then I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye, yeah. Happy holidays and time off to everyone, and we'll see you in January.
Also from my side, thank you very much for the participation. It was a very good feeling to hear a lot of questions, especially about ohmic heating. And I wish you the best for your future, not only for our competition, but of course for the future of your studies and further specific work in the field of food and grain technology. Thank you very much. Wish you the best. And thank you for the organizers. Thanks to Catherine, thanks to Line for organizing the webinar today. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you to Alfred for moderating the interesting discussion. If I may also just thank all the teams for submitting your 3 suggestions for topics for the 4th webinar. We received all of your very interesting suggestions, and they are now being looked at by the core group of experts that will give their view on these topics. They will select topics that can be presented, and we will have this 4th webinar, the student suggestion webinar, in the week of the 13th of January. And we hope at least next week we can send you the final date for this webinar, but it will be in that week, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. So I think we can say thank you and
I
see you next month.
Or just thank you. Yep, thank you from SETI. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Ciao, ciao.